Hello, welcome to the Banner Travel Expense Management System Approver Training. This training is designed to provide you with the steps and instructions you need to approve travel authorization requests and expense reports in the Travel Expense Management System, or TEMS. TEMS is an online travel authorization and reimbursement system. TEMS is integrated within Banner and automates and streamlines the travel authorization, advance request, and expense reporting and reimbursement process. This system replaces the current paper forms and the manual approval process used for travel-related requests. Some of the features and benefits in TEMS include improved self-service capability through a web-based application. You'll have real-time access to the status of travel authorizations and travel expense reimbursements. TEMS also provides per diem rates for lodging and meals and automatically encumbers your budget. This reduces the processing time for travel authorization and travel expense reimbursements. An electronic approval queue also allows supervisors and budget authorities the ability to review and approve authorizations and advances, as well as travel expense reports online. There are several different user roles within TEMS. The traveler is the person who is traveling on university business. The delegate is the person who's processing travel for another individual, for example, the department travel coordinator. And the approver is the person with budget authority who's responsible for approving travel authorization and expense reports. Additionally, TEMS has the ability for you to identify a proxy to act in your behalf if you're not available. We'll get to that later on in the training. This diagram shows the TEMS process prior to travel. The traveler or the delegate accesses TEMS and creates an authorization report. This report includes dates and locations of travel, the index or indexes that the travel will be charged against, as well as any expenses such as airfare, hotel, conference fees, etc. Once the authorization report has been completed and submitted, TEMS generates an email notification to the approver that has been identified. This email notification is used to access workflow where the approver has the ability to approve the travel, return it, or deny it. Once travel has occurred, the traveler or their delegate accesses TEMS and creates an expense report. The expense report is the final accounting for all travel expenses. This is where additional travel expenses that were not included in the authorization report may be added. Once the expense report is submitted, again, TEMS generates an email to the identified approver. The approver then has the opportunity to access workflow and approve, deny, or return the expense report. To request access to TEMS, please submit a web help desk ticket and include your email, your employee ID, your supervisor's name, and the TEMS role that you'll be using. For assistance, use a web help desk ticket, or contact Travel Accounting, or visit the Travel Accounting page. This page also contains a step-by-step user guide for TEMS approval. This is a companion document to the online training. To access TEMS, visit the Banner Secure Links page and select the TEMS link, or visit the Travel Accounting page for direct links to TEMS and workflow. Let's get started on approving a travel authorization. Before you can begin starting to approve travel documents, you'll need to access TEMS and set up information in your profile. Log into TEMS, click the Profile tab. The profile page displays your information. The first time you access TEMS, you'll need to indicate an approver. This is the individual who is responsible for approving your travel. This profile already has an approver assigned. To add an approver, you'll want to click the pencil icon, type in the last name of your approver, click the arrow. Depending on the search criteria entered, a list of names displays. Select the applicable approver and select. You'll also need to add a funding default to your profile. Click the pencil icon. In the chart field, type capital letter E. Enter the applicable index or funding source your travel will be charged to, and click Add. Click Save. If you're not certain what your index would be, you need to speak to your delegate or your supervisor and ask them to advise you. If a delegate's going to be processing your travel for you, they'll be able to enter this information in the funding default if you have not. If a delegate is going to be processing your travel for you, it's imperative that you assign that delegate. They will not be able to process your travel unless they have been assigned. Click the Assign Delegate link. Click Add Delegate, and again enter the last name. Select your delegate and save. You're now ready to start processing travel in TEMS. When a travel authorization has been submitted for approval, TEMS automatically generates an email notification. This indicates that a travel and expense document approval is requested. Here's a tip. If you're expecting an authorization request for approval and don't see it in your inbox, double-check your Outlook junk mail folder. Outlook may have tagged the email as junk. Within the email, there is a link to Workflow. Click the link. If you're not already logged on through single sign-on, you may be asked to log in with your EWU net ID and password. This is the travel and expense approval page. The top portion of the page provides an overview of the travel, including who is traveling, the travel authorization document code, dates, and a brief description, as well as the dollar amount of the expense of the travel. Before indicating an approval status, you'll want to visit TEMS to review the travel authorization in detail. Click the Travel and Expense page link. This will automatically send you to the TEMS system. The page you're seeing here is general information regarding who has processed the authorization and the itinerary. At the bottom of the page, there are page numbers or an arrow to advance through the authorization to view all the information. Click the arrow to advance to the next page. This page lists all reimbursable expenses. These are expenses reimbursable to the traveler. Click the arrow to advance to the next page. Here you will see the accounting information, the index or indexes that the travel is being charged to. The following page provides a list of non-reimbursable expenses. These are expenses that are typically paid for by the department, such as airfare and conference registration. Make sure you've clicked the arrow to cycle through the entire authorization report before you return to Workflow. Now that we've taken a look at the travel authorization, we can make a decision whether we want to approve the authorization report, add another approver, deny the authorization, or return it for correction or changes. You can also send it on for final approval to the Travel Accounting Office. To add and approve a trainer, select the radio button. Many times an additional approver needs to be added to the workflow. This is the case when travel expenses may be charged to a procurement card holder within the department that is not yourself. You'll want to add that approver's name in the additional approver field. Enter their email address. Additionally, if travel expense is being charged to grant money, you'll need to forward the authorization to the grants department for additional approval. Be sure to add the EWU email address. The TEMS user guide provides additional information on determining whether or not an additional approver is needed. Please refer to that guide. You also have the ability to deny the request. If you deny the request, you need to include comments in the approver comments field indicating why the authorization is being denied. An additional option you have is to return the authorization for correction. This returns it to the traveler or delegate who created it. Again, if you are returning for correction, you must enter comments in the approver comments field. If no additional approvers are needed, you can select the final approval dialog radio button to forward the travel authorization to Travel Accounting. Travel Accounting has final approval on all travel authorizations. All of these actions generate email notifications to either the traveler, the delegate, or to Travel Accounting, notifying them that there is a travel authorization. To complete the workflow, click Complete. The work list is now empty. Once travel has occurred, the traveler or their delegate creates an expense report in TEMS. The expense report is the final accounting of all travel expenses. TEMS also allows the attachment of receipts. Once the expense report has been submitted, Banner electronically submits an email to the designated approver. The email shows in the inbox and indicates that there is a travel expense reimbursement report. Click on the workflow link. The travel and expense reimbursement report displays. The first part of the report provides an overview of the expense. As with the authorization report, you have the ability to approve and add an approver, deny, return for a correction, or send the final approval to Travel Accounting. First, you'll want to look at the expense report. Click the Travel and Expense page link. TEMS opens and displays the general information page of the expense report. Like the authorization report, click the arrows or numbers at the bottom of the page to review the expense report. We see reimbursable expenses. We also see the index that the expense has been charged to or will be charged to. We see non-reimbursable expenses. These are expenses that are not reimbursable to the traveler. and we conclude. Once the expense report has been viewed, return to Workflow and determine the approval status. You may approve and add an additional approver. This will route the expense report to the other approver indicated in the additional approver field. This is where you enter their email address. You can deny the expense report, but you must enter approver comments as to why it is being returned. If there's an error or something that needs to be corrected on the expense report, click the Return for Correction radio button. Again, an approver comment is required. If no additional approvers are needed, you may send the final approval to Travel Accounting. Click Complete, and the expense report has been processed. Now let's take a look at how to add a proxy. A proxy is an individual that acts on your behalf when you're unable to approve travel documents. To assign a proxy, you must visit the Banner Travel and Expense webpage and click the Workflow link. If you're not already logged on via single sign-on, you'll be asked to enter your net ID and password. Once you access Workflow, under User Profile, click User Information. Click Add Proxy. The list of users that display are individuals that have already been granted access through TEMS as approvers. If your proxy has not been identified as an approver and have access to TEMS, they will not display in the list. Select your proxy. You need to add an effective from and to date that your proxy will be acting on your behalf. Click the icon and select the dates. Select both checkboxes and save. It's important to note that your proxy will not receive email notifications via Workflow when travel documents are waiting for approval and review. If a traveler or their delegate is entering travel, they need to notify your proxy directly to access TEMS directly to approve. That concludes the TEMS Online Approver training. Please be sure to visit the Travel and Expense System website for documentation with step-by-step instructions on the information that we've covered today. Also, other documentation is available as well. You may also contact Travel Accounting for questions. Thank you.